Hi, I'm Tyson,
I'm Colin.
I'm Ryan.
and we're the
We're the
Gamesmiths, and we are here to learn how to play Donkey Co. Are You Smarter Than a Gorilla? Ryan's going to teach us the rules.
All right. So, Donkey Co. Are You Smarter Than a Gorilla? Is a game that combines elements from the game of chess and the game of tic-tac-toe. The game was invented by Zachary Abram and Manoj Abram. The first version of the game was developed as a mobile game for the iOS platform and published by Internet Donkey Incorporated. So, basically, those are the rules. We are combining chess and tic-tac-toe. So this is probably a better introduction than I should have read. Most of us are familiar with the game of tic-tac-toe. In the game of tic-tac-toe, two players, X and O, take turns marking the space in a 3x3 grid. The player who succeeds in placing three of their marks in a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal row wins the game. In a nutshell, Donkey Co is tic-tac-toe played with chess pieces. In the game of Donkey Co, two players, white and black, take turns marking the spaces in a 3x3 grid with white and black chess pieces. However, unlike tic-tac-toe, Donkey Co, once a check piece is on the grid, it can move and capture other pieces in the game like chess. Hence, during a turn, a player can either place a chess piece on an empty square in the 3x3 grid or move an existing chess piece on the grid. The player who succeeds in placing three chess pieces of their color in a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal row wins the game. So we actually have a couple variations of the game, standard 3x3 and 4x4 squares. We have our black and white chess pieces, and the game is, pretty much explained there. The rest is just kind of knowing the rules of chess and tic-tac-toe. So quick refresher for all of those who don't and how we're doing the Donkey Co thing here. When it's your turn, you have the option, like it said, of placing a piece on the board anywhere or moving a piece that you already have on the board in some kind of legal move. For the pawns, they move like pawns do. They move one forward or they can capture diagonally. Rooks can move in a straight line as far as they'd like, but just one direction. You can't turn corners or anything like that in the middle of the turn. Knights here make L-shaped movements, and so they can either go kind of two forward and one over, or one forward and two over. Is
that the same on the 4x4 grid? So
yes.
They have to move two forward and then one, or could they do like a full L?
No, it's just a standard chess move. So you can do two forward and one, or one forward and then two.
Okay.
So just you're
Making
and
an
unlike any other piece, the knights jump. So a capture in chess is, if you have a piece like this and a piece like this, you move the rook forward until it hits the other rook, and then you've captured it and you've eliminated it. The knight piece works a little differently, whereas it would jump over. So the knight piece would say move to this square by going forward to and over one, but they jump, so it's not like they go like that and capture the knight when they run into it, or capture the rook when they run into it like another piece would. They are going to
land on top of it.
hop over it. So the piece here, they'd hop over and land on. So their options are, say, to go one up and two or one up and two over and end here, or two up and one over and end here. So either way, they're not going to be able to capture this piece because they have to jump it, but they can either land here and get captured by the pawn on the next turn, or land on the pawn and capture it.
Oops.
Wrong side. That one ended well. Bishops move on the diagonal as far as they'd like in one direction. So if you're here, you can't go boop, boop. You have to go either that way or that way. Queens can move as far as they'd like in any direction, but just one direction, so they can either move diagonally or on the straight lines. So a combination of the rook here and the bishop here. The king, normally in chess, the king is your most important piece. If it dies, you lose. Not so here. It's just a regular piece like everything else. It moves like the queen in any direction, but it can only move one space. Losing it doesn't really cost you anything. It's just another piece in this game. And so those are all the pieces. I don't know if I was clear, but pawns move forward and then capture on the diagonal. So it could either move here like this. So if you have a setup like this, the pawn's prevented moving forward here because this one's in its way and it's not allowed to capture moving forward. But it could move diagonally to capture this pawn here. Also, pawns are only allowed to move forward. Everybody else is allowed to move in whatever direction they'd like. But once you put a pawn down, it's only allowed to move away from its own back line, essentially.
It doesn't turn into a different piece when it gets to the other side.
No, there are no special kind of chess rules in this. You're not allowed to do any real special chess moves. Like I said, the king itself, losing it doesn't lose you the game. Normally it would.
So then this area here, though, it doesn't have any impact on the game. It's just
No, it's just kind of a staging area
Oh, okay.
where your pieces hang out. But yeah, like you said, there's no pawn promotion or anything like that. We have here, so a game kind of plays out like, I'll put my pawn here, someone will put their knight there, I'll move my pawn, they can place another rook, I'll kill, and we'll slowly just kind of move through the game until, and then this person will put something here, so then I'll block there. And then they'll block here, I'll kill that, and then they can put their guy there. Whoop, tic-tac-toe, 3 in a row, white has won. So there's a couple ways to win the game. One you just saw there, getting your kind of standard tic-tac-toe. The other way is by capturing enough pieces that the person doesn't have enough to win the game anymore. So if you have
So in this one, if you are down to 3,
2 pieces, so as soon as you hit 2 pieces, you lose the game because you can still win the game with 3 pieces
yeah.
technically. But as soon as you're at 2 pieces, there's no way you can get tic-tac-toe, so you're out. So to capture, and then same thing over here in the 4x4 grid. If we're playing 4x4, if you get the person down to 3 pieces, then they're out. The player can also win the game if it's the opponent's turn and the board position is such that there are no valid moves for the opponent. This is rare but can happen when all locations are occupied by pieces and any pieces that the opponents have don't have any valid moves. So, a situation like you have all, of your pawns, I don't even know, like your pawns are all kind of lined up like that. So no one, you got 4 pawns like that, so no one can really move or attack. And, then, and I don't know, it's even hard to just kind of make up that scenario because white would win in this scenario. But yeah, if you just end up in a position where you're looking at it and there's just like, it's my turn and there's nothing I can do, none of my pieces can actually move, I can't capture anyone, I can't do anything. Like they said, it's rare, but if it does happen, then it will, whoever turn it's not wins the game essentially. We have 2 versions of it. I just kind of explained to you the more competitive, straightforward version. There's also a version that involves a die that we can use for randomization or handicapping. One or both players can use the die. Essentially, you roll the die, and it's going to have, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pieces. Is there even a king?
No,
on it?
there's
the
not a
king isn't
king.
represented. Okay, yep. So everybody but the king has a side. The king is replaced by the donkey on this die. So you're going to roll,
gorilla.
or the gorilla, sorry. Yeah, I know that's a gorilla. The king is replaced by a gorilla. So essentially you roll the die, whatever piece comes up, so a rook. I either have to place or move a rook. So I can take my rook out of my back row here and put it on, or if I already had a rook on the table, I could move it if it was already on there. So then, say Colin would roll, he gets the queen, so then he can put his queen, you know, wherever he wants on the board. Now I roll again. I have my queen. That means I can put, you know, my queen on the board here as well. Now we're looking at a situation where whoever gets to roll queen first gets to kill the other person's queen. So if Colin rolls, oh, that's a bad example. If Colin rolled bishop, he couldn't kill my queen. He'd have to put a bishop on the board instead. Excuse me. And then, of course, if you roll the gorilla, that is essentially a
donkey.
wild card, right? You get to move whatever you'd like. So rolling the gorilla, then I got the gorilla. I'm just going to kill you with my queen. And it'll be Colin's turn. And he's like, oh, I rolled a queen. I don't have one. I just lost it, so I need to roll something else. Oh, man, I'm really good at rolling queens. Watch out, guys. He would roll his bishop, so now he can take vengeance on me, and now we're both queenless.
Queen.
Oops, yeah. Any questions? That's kind of the basics of the game. Otherwise, you're just more or less the main objective of the game is to get tic-tac-toe.
And you're still
or
trying to get
four in a
on the
row.
4.
Correct. Yeah, you want 4 in a row on the 4x4 grid. You want 3 in a row on the 3x3 grid. And that's really like the main objective of the game is the tic-tac-toe or the 4 in a row. But then you kind of have the secondary objective of either just killing so many pieces that there's a winner, or kind of locking it at a stalemate on your opponent's turn, and you can win that way. So there shouldn't be any stalemates. Questions?
And pawns, they can only move, you said, forward
Right.
or diagonal to kill. They couldn't.
Right.
You couldn't. If you got a pawn on the board, you couldn't move it backwards.
Correct. So like if you get to this point and you get all the way here, that pawn is pretty much stuck there because it can't go forward, or it can't go forward anymore, it can't go backwards anymore. It's kind of stuck there until something murders it. So whereas, you have your better pieces that can zip around the board and move forward and backwards. Any other questions?
I think that's good.
All right. Well, I suppose it's time to find out if we're smarter than a gorilla. And we'll see you in the gameplay.
So